Hello everybody, this is Dr. Jimmy again. Hello. Yes, and today I'd like to start a new series of videos in my Horror Nights history. Yes, to begin the Horror Nights history for the event of Universal Orlando Halloween Horror Nights 25. That wonderful event that occurred just a couple of years ago at Universal Studios, Florida. Oh goody. 2015 already, and 2017 is now, which means I might just be able to wrap up my horror history before Halloween Horror Nights 27 starts in September. Oh goody, can I finish 25 and 26 before we get to 27? Ooh, I hope so. Anyway, first, the t-shirt of the day. May I show off? Sharknado! Yay! Yes. Of course, that's a Universal property. I'd kind of hoped they might bring it to Universal someday. I'd hoped, back when they announced Twister was going to be closed, that maybe they'd turn that into Sharknado. They had leftover sharks from Jaws, just put those in the Twister and make it into a Sharknado. Didn't do that, though. They went with Jimmy Fallon. And from what I hear, maybe that was a mistake. Ooh, don't be mean. I actually haven't been on it yet, but I've been hearing lots of people use the word meh, saying it's like Despicable Me for adults. Oh no. Although I understand the queue and pre-show is much better than the ride itself. I haven't done it yet, though. I'll have to take a trip during this Mardi Gras season and take a look at it and judge for myself. It's still in soft opening anyway, after all, and we don't know what it's going to be like completely when it opens for real, whenever that is. It might be interesting, might be better than what's currently being seen. We'll see. But before I get into it, let's take a look into the future before we go back to history. Yes, let's see what we can figure out, if we can figure anything out about Horror Nights 27. We know we have code words for Halloween Horror Nights 27, 2 of them. Checkmate and brains. And oh, that Patrick, he's an HHN mean one. That's his Twitter handle. He's been teasing us about dropping a third code name, but it didn't happen on the weekend like we thought it might. We might have to wait a bit longer to get that name. There's also a little bit of something. Charles Bremer, who has an obsession with t-shirts. Oh my goodness, I like to show mine off, but nothing like him. He was going on about finding some old Jack t-shirts that are still on sale and saying, oh, I'm getting tired of this face, and then James Keaton, Jack himself says, well, I think you may have to put up with that face for some time yet to come. Is that a clue, Jimmy? Are you telling us that you're coming back as Jack this year? Or maybe next year? Well, I can imagine Jack will be back at some point, but when? That's the question. Will he be back for this year? Will the other icons be back? We don't know, but they showed up in a video about last year that they weren't in originally, because they weren't there last year, but there they were making little sudden appearances. Jack, director, storyteller, usher, all popping up in that video along with Chance. Is that meant to be a clue? I don't know. Somebody may be coming back, maybe somebody different. But what about Hollywood? That's where they've got 4 code names already. Lemonade, Charles, Writer's Block, and The Big Chill. We've talked about those a bit. 5th Maze, though. Murdy says he's already wrapped up the storyline, the treatment for the 5th Maze. He's written it, but he hasn't given us a code name. Or has he? He said, as I've mentioned before, it's one of those dark horse mazes, if you know I mean. And we talked about what could that mean, dark horse. Well, I had tweeted back to him, is that the code name then? And then he didn't say anything. I thought was all finished. But more recently, he replied to that tweet saying, no, he's used dark horse before. And then he said, for that maze, the fifth one, he's going to have to come up with a code name that was inspired by David Bowie. That's interesting. What could that be? And so I thought, oh, cool. I said, Scary Monsters? That seems like one more appropriate. And he said, oh, there's so many possibilities. You know, it could use Scary Monsters. Think of all the possibilities. And I said, Spiders from Mars. Maybe I got that in reverse. Maybe I said Spiders from Mars first. Then he said, Scary Monsters. He says, yes. Or Beauty and the Beast. That's the name of a Bowie song. And so I thought, is that meant to be a clue there? Because he had Beast all capitalized, you know. So that's interesting. But then, all of a sudden, he sent just 1984. That's all, 1984. And I thought, well, that's also a Bowie song, 1984. But is it the actual code name? Did he actually give us the code name and nobody noticed? Is 1984 the actual code name for the fifth maze? Because that could open all kinds of possibilities. 1984, of course, we think of George Orwell and we think of totalitarianism, but we also, there are lots of interesting movies released in 1984. Ghostbusters, Gremlins, all sorts of movies. I don't know if that's even the real code name, but it makes me wonder what kind of, what it might be. And of course we know IPs in Hollywood are very possibly, very probably, even likely to be shared with Orlando as well. So I don't know if that's even really the code name, but you'd think by now he'd give us one for the fifth maze. Well, we'll have to wait and see what Murdy says later. Enough of that. Now let's start looking at Halloween Horror Nights 25. And I have to say, this was one of the most exciting years they've ever done. It was absolutely a landmark year, as it should be for the 25th anniversary. It was the year they raised the number of houses up to 9. 9 haunted houses for the very first time. The scare zones were quite theatrical, very entertaining and innovative in a lot of ways that year. They also brought back some old characters, of course. Characters we had missed come back again, but not just the ones that we would normally expect to see again and again, but some old characters from way back, including some a return of one particular person who'd been at the event every single year and then disappeared for a couple of years. They brought her back at last. It was the year, of course, that we also brought back some rather obscure characters from, say 2008, and was brought back in such a way that turned out to be a huge fan favourite and became a big important part of the event, to the extent that that character got his own Twitter and a cult following. What do you know? It could happen. Oh yes. It was also a year that the main stage in the centre of the park came back after the longest time of missing the main stage. That came back for a wonderful new version of an old show we had seen many years, but again updated and made even more exciting. Favourite characters coming back to steal the show, even from Jack. All sorts of fun there. It was the year that, check my notes that I wrote down earlier. Let's see. It was a year they had some amazing haunted houses. One house in particular became a huge fan favourite and might be, maybe, arguably one of the best houses they've ever done. Oh, yes. And it was also a year that secrets were revealed. Amazing secrets in the backstories of some of these great characters that we never would have dreamed, connecting various pieces of Horror Nights mythology together in ways we had never suspected. Wow! Not only that, it was a year in which there was, for me personally, because these things are a bit subjective, same thing that terrifies one person might be just kind of to somebody else, you never know. But for me personally, the most terrifying moment I have ever had at Halloween Horror Nights. In all the 26 years I've attended the event. Of course, it was only 25 years that time, but going since Fright Nights in the beginning, all the years and even since then, last year, I've never had a moment of sheer horror, sheer terror, oh my God, as I did that one moment in 2015. Again, personal. What scares Jimmy might not scare any of you, but for me at least, oh my God, that was an amazing moment, perhaps, in the entire history of Horror Nights. So it was an exciting landmark year in so many ways. Now let's get to telling the tale then, because we've already got past 10 minutes and I haven't really started yet. When did we first start hearing about Halloween Horror Nights 25? Well, Halloween night 2014. Yes, on Halloween night of 2014, as Halloween Horror Nights 24 came to an end, there appeared on Universal Orlando's YouTube channel amazing little video giving highlights of that event. Oh, thank you for coming to Horror Nights 24 and making it one of the best ever. You saw scenes of different things. We saw the purgers in the streets. We saw the Walking Dead house. Oh, how exciting. It showed scenes of Giggle and Gore house. And then all of a sudden, wait a minute. That's not a clown from Giggles and Gore. That's Jack. Jack's face suddenly appears. Ha 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 ha. Then it disappears again. Then it reappears, superimposed. Jack's, it's like you hear his theme song, the old "Pop Goes the Weasel" song going on, all around the mulberry bush. The monkey chased the weasel. And what the hell? What's Jack doing in this video? He wasn't at Halloween Horror Nights 24. We keep seeing Jack pop up again, and then it says hashtag HHN 25, and it's on select nights from September 25th to October 31st of 2015. They teased Halloween Horror Nights 25 on Halloween night as the very event of Halloween Horror Nights 24 was coming to an end. They teased us by presenting Jack the Clown in this video, telling us then that Jack was returning the following year for Halloween Horror Nights 25, and even giving us the dates, saying select nights from September 25th to October 31st. Wow, they'd never given the dates that early before. We always had to wait until sometime in the spring when UK sites would come up with the actual dates, and they also never gave us anything like this, telling us that Jack the Clown was coming back, revealing the icon for the event, the last night of the previous year. Wow. So we knew already Jack was going to return, and we had an idea of when the event would be, and we were all excited. Well, it turns out, there's always fine print whenever they give out dates. These dates are subject to change without further notice, because indeed those dates weren't accurate. That might be what they planned on Halloween night of 2014, but by early 2015, I think it was January or February, we got the actual dates. Not all of them, but it was changed up. And from the UK sites or wherever, we got the dates were not exactly what we thought they were going to be. They turned out to be from September 18th, not the 25th, but the 18th of September, not to Halloween night, but to November 1st. Whoa! So the event was going to be bigger than we thought it was going to be. Not from the 25th to the 31st, but rather from the September 18th to November 1st. That was exciting. So that tantalized us. Well, April, of course, I did an April Fool's video, as I always do. And indeed, this is March 14th of 2017. Well, I'm doing this now, which means this week in St. Patrick's Day, but it also means Saturday week after next. Yes, that's, let's see. What's that? It's like 18 days? Let's see, a week could be 7, 2 weeks is 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Just 18 days from now, it'll be April 1st again. So, yeah, that's coming up this year as well. I have got something planned, but on 2015 I did a rather silly series of videos with the rather stupid idea that it would be all British themed and came up with some silly ideas that Jack the Clown would come back as a British version of himself, and there'd be some odd connections between his backstory and the body collectors, that the body collectors somehow were the origin of Jack and that he had some connection to Jack the Ripper. And I thought that was just bullshit I was making up, because sometimes, you know, when I'm joking, I'm more serious than I realize. I had no idea about what the event would actually portend. I didn't know anything yet, but of course, I, after that, began my own cryptic, where I pretend to have some inside information and sang silly songs. And I started doing that as I was. And then before I even got done with all the songs, somebody leaked the whole damn event. Somebody posted on one of their sites, I don't remember which one, was it Chad at Rumours? Might have been. It might have been one of the other blogs. But they posted a whole list of what IPs and some of the original houses, although one of them, Cobweb, was still a mystery. People were thinking about mummies for some reason. We weren't quite sure what they... No, Cobweb was last year. I don't remember now what that other thing was. Oh, the actual original houses. Yeah, there was some... Blizzard! That's what it was, yeah. The code word Blizzard had been given out pretty early last year. The way Cobweb was last... I mean... Sorry. The word Blizzard had been given out by Michael Aiello as a code word for an original house that he was very excited about. Didn't give any clue what Blizzard meant, but that was given out early. So we knew there was a code word for an original house called Blizzard, just like they did in 2016 with Cobweb, you see. So Blizzard, there were some theories what Blizzard might be. Well, the person who leaked came up with some of the ideas of what Blizzard was, and also revealed some scare zones as well. And it's like, holy crap, this is way too much information. Way too much information. And I hadn't even finished doing my silly songs. And I thought, this is ridiculous. The whole event has been leaked much earlier than it ever had before by these people. And I felt partially responsible. I somehow created myself an environment where people were trying to find clues and people were guessing clues and figuring it out, and I thought, I'm done. No more cryptic anything. I'm going to go back to the way it was before. I'm going to speculate and try to guess, but I'm not going to try to get the answers in advance. I'm just going to speculate like everybody else does and have a good time. You know, like a wise man once said, the suspense is terrible. I hope it lasts, you know. Oh, Willy Wonka. And to do that sort of thing, you know. And go back to how fun it was trying to guess what's in the boxes before you open them up on Christmas morning. You know, all of that. I mentioned that in the video. And so that's what I decided to do. And I've tried to stay honest and keep that since then. So I ended all that cryptic clues, but there were still a lot of leaks. Very, very naughty leaks. But again, Aiello did give us some clues of his own when he gave Blizzard, for example, and people thought, well, what's that going to be, a house at Dairy Queen? Well, something did happen to give us a little bit more idea about something that was coming up. We weren't quite sure exactly, but I mentioned James Keaton earlier, a nice young man I've known for many years, who of course originated, well, not as young as he used to be, but originated Jack the Clown back in the year 2000 as the person performing Jack. Other people have played Jack over the years, but he's still the Jack everyone thinks of as the original, and he still continues to this day to play Jack at the event when they have Jack, along with some other nice performers, including a nice fellow who now works for WWE. But also there's a lovely young lady named Erin Klein, who was best known She's been in Bill and Ted many, many times. You can usually recognize her by some of her amazing talents. But she also played Chance in 2007 in the original show that was called The Carnival of Carnage. So, I happen to be a Facebook friend with Keaton, and I noticed on Facebook early in the year he was talking about a trip he was taking, of all places, to Budapest in Hungary. What's he doing in Budapest? And then I noticed a picture he posted showing himself and Erin, both of them in Budapest together with other people who were involved at Universal. So this isn't just him going as a tourist. He went there with people who work for Universal. This is some sort of business trip. Why would Jimmy and Erin go to Budapest together with other people who are involved in film production at Universal? They're filming something in Budapest. What could it be? And my suspicion, which turned out to be correct, they're making a promotional commercial advertisement for Horror Nights 25. And indeed, a little bit later that summer, Mike Coelho tweeted a picture showing some set pieces and some costumes, including Chance's dress and what looked like a large comfy chair that were taken during the filming of a commercial advertisement, which we'd learn was part of that whole commercial for Halloween Horror Nights 25. When would we get to see that? Well, not right away. So, throughout the summer, we started to get reveals, and as in the previous year, they started to reveal some of the IPs fairly early. I think the earliest one might have been as early as May, June or May, and they started revealing some of the IPs that were coming. Very exciting, very happy. Of course, some of it was as expected. Walking Dead was coming back, but we learned about other IPs. We learned, for example, Freddy vs. Jason. Ooh, that's exciting. And we learned, and of course that fit in with the leaks that had occurred, because that had all been leaked, of course. Insidious was coming. Well, that had also already been leaked, but we learned about that. And we eventually learned all the IPs, verifying all the IPs, all the movies and television programs, you know, The Walking Dead, all of those things. American Werewolf in London, again, all of those things that had been in the leaked list that had been put out earlier in April. So, okay, that confirms whoever put that leak out had apparently got the right information. So, okay, but there was one IP left on that list, and there was no reveal for it. The one IP left after they went through American Werewolf, Freddy vs. Jason, Insidious, The Walking Dead, and all of those. There was one left, one IP that was on the leaked list of IPs, but there still was no announcement for it, and it was getting closer and closer to time for the big total reveal, because it was getting towards August already, late August. When are they going to drop the shoe and give us the last one and confirm the last IP? We all knew what it was supposed to be, because it was leaked back in April. Scream. There was supposed to be a house based on the motion picture Scream, the original 1996 picture Scream. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen, and it didn't happen, and we kept waiting and waiting, and it didn't happen. What's going on? And I began to hear rumors that something had gone terribly wrong. Now, you remember, as I've done many times before in these videos, sometimes the best laid plans of art and design aft gang agley. Yes, things go wrong. And indeed, that happened again. They had planned to do the Scream house based on the motion picture Scream. They gotten the rights from the Weinstein Company that controls the franchise. They began making the house. Indeed, it was getting into late August. The house had been built. The costumes had been made. all the sets had been designed, had been cast. The characters had been cast to play the characters from the motion picture Scream. Everything was being done. It was all perfect. Then something happened, and I've heard different stories, but apparently there was a television program called Scream, loosely based on the original franchise, but making many divergences from the original storyline, a different mask, a different storyline about a mad killer. And this particular television series aired on the MTV network. And at first it was rather minimal and no one thought would go, but it got picked up for a second season. Apparently it did well. And the people at Weinstein, once it was picked up for a second season, said, hey, we need to promote Scream, our TV show, not the old movie from years ago, from almost 20 years before. No, we want to promote the TV show. And so they told Universal, you can't do the movie. We know we got this agreement, but no, we want you to do the TV show instead. Now, I even heard one wild rumor from one person who claims to know shit, I don't know how much they know, that they never actually had the rights to begin with, and they thought they were so overconfident they built the house. I doubt that tremendously. They wouldn't do that before they got the rights. But it could be that they had a verbal agreement and they hadn't gotten down to signing the last signature. I don't know. But whatever it was, they were told, you got to do the TV show. And they said, we've already built the damn house. We've already cast the house. We've already got all the costumes and everything. We can't change it to the TV show now. And they said, well, then you can't do it. You can't do the movie. You have to do the TV show or we're out. And they refused to budge. They refused to budge, and so they said, screw it. Now, I know John Murdy had done a Scream thing in Hollywood a couple years before and had all kinds of trouble with Weinstein and swore he'd never work with him again. So they might have learned a lesson from that. But the people in Orlando, I've heard, all kinds of stories. I've heard that laptops were thrown on the floor and smashed in this confrontation, that there was real anger and resentment, yelling and screaming and all kinds of shit going down. I don't know for a fact, but you hear shit and you never know how true it is. But they couldn't do Scream. They had to come up with something else. They had to, at the last bloody minute, figure out how they could change the Scream house into something else. Well, Universal had the rights to the Purge franchise. They'd done a scare zone, the year before, the Purge anarchy in the streets of New York. They had Purge costumes already. They said, here's what we'll do. We'll change Scream to the Purge. Now we have the sets for Scream already built. We'll go in there and we'll do our best to make them into Purge sets. In some cases, we'll just involve a lot of graffiti and spray over shit. And then we'll have Purge characters instead of the Scream characters. We've already got costumes. We can make some more. The ones for Scream we'll have to just put away somewhere. All those ghost face masks, all those black robes that they had created, they just went away. And they had to make up. They did Scream with Purge instead. So they overlaid Purge over the Scream. They got rid of their facade. They built something else instead, rather quickly, piecemeal, and they did an overlay, transforming the whole house that had been built for Scream into a house for Purge. That was at the bloody last minute. It was so last minute that we didn't know that this wasn't officially announced until they gave the full reveal and gave all the houses together and all the scare zones together, and at that point we saw the Purge as the 9th house. Wow. Furthermore, when they did have the television commercial, it was very clever. It was shot in Budapest, and we have this little warehouse where Jack and Chance have two victims. They're tied to a table, and on Chance's Wheel of Fortune, and they're spun around, and there's cages set up. And the cages have Freddy in one, Jason in another, and a whole bunch of Walking Dead zombies. Which one opens up and which one gets to kill you? And of course the zombies, when they start coming after them, and they're like, oh no, and then Jack says, ha 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 ha. Everybody wins. He pulls down all three of them, so all of them come out. Right? It's quite a lot of fun. The original version of the commercial had another cage with Ghostface in it, and that was leaked after the event, and we got to see the original version of the commercial, which had Freddy, Jason, Ghostface, and the zombies, not just Freddy, Jason, and the zombies, which made it actually a better commercial. But they had to cut that bit out because they couldn't use Ghostface when Scream had to be dropped. Alrighty, I've reached the 30-minute mark, and so we'll go to part 2.